There's marketing, then there's marketing your marketing, which is like, hey, look what we do for our properties. And then the next unlock and the next level, which would be what I would consider like the elite level, is content marketing. And that's the opportunity that I saw of where you can really stand out.
What's up, everybody? It's Joe Herrera. Welcome to the Team Leader Academy podcast. I'm with my guy, Jordan Rossman. Super grateful you're willing to join me, Jordan. I've admired, well, we've worked together. We've known each other for a long time, but there's certain things that I admire that people do that I'm not good at. So I admire people that run, like for sport. I admire people that can sing. I admire people that can play an instrument. And then in the real estate space, I really admire storytellers, like individuals who can use video content and digital media to tell a story and build a relationship and a brand. And you are one of the guys that I think's done it at a really, really high level. So thanks for joining us. I'm excited to learn from you.
Yeah, I'm happy to be on here, and I'm honored to be on here. And I can tell you that I definitely can't run, I can't sing, and I can't play an instrument. But yeah, storytelling and through the form of content marketing, which is kind of our topic and direction for today, is definitely something that over time I've built up as a skill of mine, and it served me well. And I think as we transition into a new type of market, will continue to serve me well.
Probably get better and better. So talk about kind of your origin story. I see a bunch of buffalo stuff behind you. I don't know if that's a natural feeder up into, the Ontario market, but where are you from? Like, who is Jordan Rossman?
Yeah, so originally from Toronto. My dad grew up in a border town on the Canadian side of Buffalo, and so we've always been huge Bills fans. And of course, I'm getting louder about it now that we're actually have a decent team. So big Bills fan, but I live and have lived for the past 20 years in a small town about an hour and a half north of Toronto. I got into real estate in 2014. And, took advantage of in my market, which was one where the average age of an agent was in the early 60s. It was a very anti-tech type market for agents here, and took advantage of the fact that we're a feeder market from Toronto, and there was a lot of young people moving up north, and they were looking for that person that they could see on social media or that had certain skills. And so, yeah, I started a team about 3 years ago. I did sort of the solo agent thing for a while. And yeah, really sort of worked on building a strong, solid brand in a small town.
So how big is your team as it sits in 2022? Like, how many team members? What type of volume do you guys do?
Yeah, so we're a small team. I would classify us as like lean and mean. So it's myself, two other agents. We have a third one who's joining in a couple weeks, and we've got a full-time marketing person and a full-time administrator. Last year's sales volume was like just over 70 million, and yeah, we've grown. I've always said like I've grown slower than we could have because I've wanted to build a really strong foundation. We say no to more agents than we say yes to, because we don't want to take on people that we're not in a position to help and help them grow. And as we do that, we can start saying yes to more and more agents.
So talk a little bit about what did you do before real estate? Was it just high school, college real estate, or did you have a background in something?
No, I was in the golf business for a while. I worked at different golf courses. I wanted to be a pro. I went for my pro card 2 years in a row. Missed it by one shot the first year and three shots.
Because what do you have to shoot? It's like 74, 74 or something like that?
Back then you had to shoot I think it was 150 for 2 rounds. You had to play 36 straight holes. And I think it was 150. And I said to, a friend of mine who I've been friends with for a long time, missing my pro card was the best thing that ever happened to me, because I would have been sucked into this world. I was never going to be a touring pro. I was going to work at a golf course my whole life. And now I get to go to golf courses and enjoy them. After that, I got into the world of finance. I worked at RBC in downtown Toronto, had that like typical city slicker, suit and tie, not making any money, thinking I was cool type of job. And then in 2014, at the pinnacle of me hating the corporate world, unfortunately, I lost my father in 2014, and it all kind of came together as this, like, I need to do what I was meant to do, which is be an entrepreneur. And I stumbled into real estate. I had no previous experience in real estate. I had no passion for real estate. I knew nothing about it. Somebody suggested it to me on a whim, and I was like, okay. I got my license, and that was it. And I loved it.
So you and I met, I think, through the curator community. How did you find those guys?
So my broker at the time, Century 21, who I was with for really the first 8 years of my career, brought it. They had a quarterly dynamic meeting, they called it. And in 2015, they brought Chris Smith in to speak.
Oh, nice. Yeah.
And I was pretty new, and I looked, Chris was doing his people work talk, which was like way before conversion code or any of that. And I was like, I don't have any money. I don't have any experience, but I was like, I need to work with this guy somehow, some way. And I told him that day, and I sent him a message that day. I was like, I'm going to work with you one day. I know it. And then the next year I got a big commercial deal that I was able to, make the biggest check I had ever seen in my life. And I said to my wife, I'm like, I'm literally taking 1 year's worth of curator's fee and putting it aside, and I'm spending that like up front. And I jumped into the curator world and never looked back.
Yeah, that's awesome. So talk about getting into content marketing. So it seemed like you kind of, I don't know if you had a talent or a skill for it, if you were passionate about social media before, if you were passionate about YouTube before. I mean, as a fellow golfer, I can tell you, if you're trying to get better at golf, you consume a lot of video content. So I don't know if YouTube was a big part of that. So like, when did you look around and go like, all right, I'm gonna start messing with this video stuff? And what were some of the early mistakes you made? What were some of the early wins you made? Like, because you're killing it now, you're doing a great job of it now, but obviously it doesn't always start that way.
Yeah. So I started basically when the early days of watching the water cooler and consuming content, watching Tom Ferry and watching all these guys talk about marketing. Watched a lot of Gary Vee. I knew marketing was important. I had no idea how important it would be or what type of marketing to do. I just knew I had to do something. And so I had the benefit when I got into real estate. I was dating who is now my wife, but she's from the States. And so we had a long distance relationship. So I was locked down on the relationship standpoint, but I didn't have anybody like wondering when I was going to be home at night. So I would literally do my real estate work from 8 till 5. And then from 5 until 10:30 at night, I was watching YouTube, figuring out how to shoot videos, and I sucked at it. Like my first videos, I still have them on my YouTube page, were awful. Like they were really awful, but I was doing them. And I was just like, I'm going to make every video a little bit better. And so the evolution of marketing for me was like, I look at marketing in 3 buckets. There's marketing, which I think every agent nowadays does to some extent, which is check out this property, look at this listing, just list it like that. There's marketing. Then there's marketing your marketing, which is like, hey, look what we do for our properties. And then the next unlock and the next level, which would be what I would consider like the elite level, is content marketing. And that's the opportunity that I saw of where you can really stand out. Because houses are houses. They provide a lot of value. They can create leads. They can do a lot of great things. But like they reach a limitation. In our market, like the houses that we list aren't that fancy. Like we help everyday Joes. Like they're not crazy, magazine quality houses. And so although we have to do a good job with that, although that creates a lot of leads for our team in the short term, it's really hard to stand out on, just that type of marketing. So over time it transitioned to like, I have to have an opinion on things, and I have to share advice with people. People are looking, like consumers right now. Talk about a great time for content marketing. I think they're all great times, but like right now is extra great in that like people are confused. They have no idea which way is up. They're hearing all these things. They hear everything from the media. They hear everything from their uncle and their parents and their this and that. But they're looking for an expert to be like, no, this is it and this is why.
Yeah.
And so
So
that's where that comes in.
yeah, so where are you at on the Gary V document over create? Because obviously anyone who makes content has to make a decision when they're like, all right, I don't know about you, but for me, I'm like, all right, let's shoot, right? And
Yep.
which means my guy mics me up, he brings in the camera, I get my light going, and I'm like, he's like, what do you want to talk about? And I'm like, and I have to document something because I do believe in documentation over creation. But at the same time, I'm creating content as well because he's not just following me around. Like Gary Vee has the opportunity that he
Right.
just tells his guys like to shoot when he's in meetings.
Right.
There's still that kind of bait the fish you want to catch. So like if you're ripping into one of your buyer's agents, you can't just tell your guy to start shooting and then put that out there and expect consumers,
Right.
if that's your primary target. So where are you at on that documentation over creation type of thing?
I started with like, I've transitioned. So with Gary Vee, I think that he is the ultimate content creator as far as I'm concerned. And I love pretty much everything he says. I've had to morph that into fit the narrative of and the atmosphere of our team and who we are and how I see things. So I've moved more from document to creation because I have just found through my own experimentation that like pumping out tons and tons and tons of content, just it never hit for me. Like I was putting out crappy stuff. I know that like Gary would not agree with this, but like,
sure,
my life's not that interesting for the most part. So where I would take that is like the document part is me. No, like I have mental triggers when I'm talking to clients, talking to agents. Like our content is all consumer facing. I don't post a lot of like agent facing content. So when I'm talking to clients, I'm making mental notes of like, here's the thing that really landed well. Like I was talking to them and they had an aha moment. What were we talking about? What was the advice? Like, what was their concern? Really putting myself in their shoes. And then I'll make notes throughout the day. I guess that's my documenting is I might go a week where I don't create anything, but I'm making all these notes and I'm making mental notes and physical notes along the way. And then we'll have like creation day or creation couple days where it's like, okay, here's the 6 topics that I really think have landed recently, and let's create based on that.
So here's 2 takeaways because you and I think approach this in a very similar way. So I've got on my notes on my phone, whenever I get an idea, I put it on there because I don't know about you, but for me, I'm hitting channel capacity, meaning I can't continue to shove information into my mind and expect it to stay there. And so I think that's such a healthy thing to do. If you have a desire to create content, for anyone that's watching this or listening, like make sure you're taking notes when inspiration strikes, because you can't count on that being there in 4 hours, 4 days, or 4 weeks when you go to shoot. So I think taking notes. I also think I'm interested to get your opinion because I'm such a R&D guy. Like if somebody makes a good video in the real estate space and I'm like, I love that, I'm going to put my own tweak on it. But I think people could get into the content creation space and think that everything they do has to be completely organic and unique. And I'm not a believer in that. I think if I watch a Gary Vee or a Tom Ferry or a Jay Kinder or a Brad McCallum or like anyone that I follow, I'm like, dude, Jay killed it on that video, save. Then when I go to shoot with my guy, I'm like, let me look at what I've saved recently. Like, oh man, this was great. And then I just kind of put my own little Joe spin on it. But where are you at with that as far as like unique ideas? Because I just don't believe there's a ton of uniqueness to even be had out there.
Dude, I'm with you. I've said it a bunch in the past. Like I've never had a unique idea in my life. Like it is a combination of taking what you love from other people's content. Like I loved when Amy was doing she's like started the like listicle, here's 5 reasons you're going to love this home. And, putting my own spin on that, even just the vibe of like how Brad starts his videos where he like comes in with this energy of like, on our last reel, I was like, okay, I'm going to come in a little bit faster because I just love that initial energy. And I came in faster, and then we went into a 3 reasons you're going to love this house. And like, it was taking inspiration. It's not a one for one copy, but taking inspiration from other people's content is huge, because you're right. There's not all these unique ideas, like, especially when you're talking about educational content. Like, there's a handful of ideas that could potentially make sense. I do think there's something to be gained from like having the time to sit and think about it and develop your own opinions on it, and maybe have conversations with people off camera to test those ideas. But ultimately, yeah, it's about taking the best of what you've seen out there and putting your own spin on it, your own feel on it. And, it's impossible to just copy somebody. I mean, I guess you could, but you're going to always have your own spin on it.
Sure.
But yeah, I'm 100% with you on that. You'll never create anything if you're sitting there focused on making sure that nobody's ever posted anything like that before.
Right. So I want to talk about meritocracy, but before we get to that, what responsibility do you feel? And I don't know if you're going through the same process I'm going through, but so I decided about 8 months ago to completely abandon the desire for my social media, like from Joe Herrera, to have anything to do with my friends and family. Like I watched The Social Dilemma on Netflix, and I was like, dude, social media makes me so mad. They're using me. And then about a few days later, I said, forget this. I'm going to use social media. And I said, right now, what I really want to do is I want to connect with agents across North America that I can collaborate with. And so I very specifically decided I'm going to try to share content that helps real estate professionals across North America, do more business, build a better business, more profitable, whatever. And so like, it was at the complete abandonment of my friends and family, because they were like, where's the pictures of your kids and stuff? Like, I purposely just abandoned all that. So the reason I bring that up is I feel on a daily basis a responsibility to educate myself through video content I ingest, through reading, through Audible books, so that I can actually share something of value with individuals. Because if I don't, it's almost like the feeder in the conveyor belt. Like, if I'm not feeding myself enough content and information and ideas, then the output is going to struggle. Because if I'm just like shooting from the hip, whatever I'm mad about that day, it's probably not going to be great content. So I don't know if are you going through that same process on a regular basis? Like, dude, I think you just said you got to slow down and ingest information. Like, what is your process on that front?
Yeah. So my process is a couple things. Number one, mine is the obsession with the consumer. Our content is all consumer facing. And so really chatting with our agents, really reflecting on conversations that I've had. Mine came from like, I took the pressure off. I want to create as much valuable content as I can, but I took the pressure off myself of saying, I have to have this level of content, this amount of this frequency, this schedule, because, I want it to be something that I've thought out and something that I've had a chance to sort of test an idea. But in terms of the stuff that I consume, I mean, I think the algorithms do a good job of that, of putting the right stuff in front of me. I make sure that I consume good content in terms of not only what they're talking about, but the style of it. Do I go with this type of, I have my little backdrop here, and that's kind of how we shoot our videos. But make sure that I'm watching people who I admire. And then, I've never found the right balance between the personal stuff and the business stuff. But it's like, if I'm at my office and I'm not with if I'm not with my family, if I'm not in my backyard, if I'm not on the golf course, like, I'm working. And so there has to be a benefit to that. And so I'm creating content for, it's work, and I'm putting in the work, and I'm not, Instagram is a work tool for me right now. Like it is it's just like our CRM. Like, it's a tool that we have at our disposal to help grow our business. And that's how I've been looking at it lately. Part of that is people like relatable people. So I will post stuff that I'll post a cute picture of my daughter or us having fun in our backyard, and from time to time, because people want to, they want to know that you're human and like them. But for the most part, yeah, I look at Instagram as like it's a business tool, and I'm here to grow my business.
So let's talk about three things. Number one, who are some of the people you follow? Like, who would you recommend people follow for inspiration? Number two, I want to talk about meritocracy, because I believe content creation is the ultimate meritocracy. Like, people are ruthless. TikTok, people are freaking mean. Like on Instagram, people aren't as mean as they are on TikTok. And then lastly, I want to talk about some of the, if you were starting from scratch, somebody's watching this, like, yeah, it sounds great, but like, what are a few of the first steps you take? So first of all, who are some of the followers or who are some of the people you follow that people should be taking inspiration from?
I mean, so obviously there's you, there's Gary V, are people who I see in my feed a lot. From a listing perspective, like Brad McCallum, his listing videos are 12 out of 10. So there's that. And then there's not a lot of like individuals that I spend a lot of time creeping their particular profile or focusing on their profile.
Right.
I get a lot of my Instagram inspiration through TikTok, if that makes sense.
Yeah.
Just in terms of the style, like I'm trying to think of some of the people, but like I'll just make these mental notes of like edits that I like, the flow and feel that I like.
Yeah.
I find a lot of TikTok, sort of the marketing business people on TikTok, the way that they do their edits is something that translates nicely to Instagram for me. Like I post mainly on Instagram Reels for our content marketing. But yeah, I mean, like the people who are have the catchy captions and the good edits, I think you're doing a great job of that. But like, honestly, I try and keep the noise to a minimum. Like literally, if you just follow one person, like just follow Gary V and do
Gary V, yeah.
Just do a portion of what he does.
So let's talk about content creation and content marketing as a meritocracy, because, like, full disclosure, Glenda Baker to me is a complete anomaly, because I remember watching a couple of her videos and I'm like, dude, like 500,000 people watch this and she got 47,000 likes and 3,000 comments. I'm like, she's not even saying anything that great. But I mean, you can't deny that she's killing the game, probably the top voice in real estate. So what are your frustrations? What are your gratitudes around content creation as a meritocracy? Because I think you probably have had the experience I've had where you're like, dude, this is going to kill it. And you put a video out there and it just sits there and does nothing and gets like 37 views. And you're like, this was like the one I was the most proud of. And then you put something else out there. You're like, this is probably going to suck. And you get 5,000 views and you're like, whoa, what happened here? So content creation is the ultimate meritocracy. What are your thoughts on that?
I couldn't agree more, but I think you have to get super clear about your goal and your audience. So for example, mine is consumer facing, as I've mentioned. Our market has really like 50,000 people.
Right.
So an amazingly successful video is not going to have 200,000 views on it. We don't have 200,000 people that I care to talk to.
Yeah.
So for me, I have to be super clear about the analytics I look at is like on Instagram, when you can see the location, the area, the general areas of the people that are watching you. That's a better metric for me than total views. I do think it's a meritocracy, but I think there's a fine balance between like doing what's trendy. And for me, it's about staying super true to what our goal is, which is to be really helpful. And so
trendy is a short-term play. You're much more in it for the long haul.
Yeah. Mine is, we're building a relationship maybe with 100 people. Like that may be the total audience of people that actually convert on all of these videos. And that's completely worth it to us. So I'll do the trendy thing. Like my most shared reel ever on our business page is like some meme I made of Tom Brady making a stupid face. And it was like the least helpful thing I've ever posted ever. And it has the most shares and most views. Yeah. But what people can't see is like when we post something and we get 6 DMs saying that was super helpful.
Right.
Or the agent that reaches out and says, hey, I've really admired your content for the last, little while. Can we go have coffee? And like those little things that they don't show up in views, they don't move the needle in a huge way in terms of how viral your video goes. But like, I'm super clear about our audience and our goal. I am talking to people in our market who are thinking about moving soon. That's our audience. And so I have to know that's not a huge viral audience.
So if you're starting from scratch, and we'll wrap it up with this, how would you start? Like, you've got your own content creation. Do you shoot your own and edit your own stuff? Do you have someone doing it for you?
I have someone that does that.
I wouldn't know where to begin.
Yeah, start with your phone. Just start. The biggest, literally over the past 5 years, the thing I've heard the most when I'm talking to agents about videos and content marketing is they get caught up on all the technical reasons why they can't. Or I don't have the camera, or what software do you use? What program do you use? None of it matters. Like Instagram will put captions on for you, and everybody has a phone with a camera on it. And so just start there. Like go on Amazon and buy yourself a little tripod for a phone and start. Know that if you're just starting, your first 100 videos might suck. Try and get better, a little bit better every time. And here's the big one. This might go against what people may think, but here's the biggest lesson that I learned. Dedicate time to content creation and video creation and go all in when you have that time. But do not think that that is going to eliminate your need to do the tried and true real estate best practices. Like the biggest mistake I made early in my career was thinking that video creation was going to move the needle. And I never called anyone from my database. Like I loved creating leads and hated calling them. And I got so caught up in like just the videos were going to be the answer. If you can take the ultimate hero agent team, whatever, to me, does an excellent job with the basics and the tried and true stuff, and then adds killer content on top of that to really just make no excuse for anyone to use anyone but them. But dedicate time to it, focus on it, know that it's important, but also don't let that become your entire day. Yeah.
Well, Jordan, I love it, man. How can people follow you? What are your accounts that you'd recommend people connect with you on?
At Rossman Team, ROSSMANTEAM is the best way to follow us. I mean, my personal one is Jordan Rossman, but Rossman Team is where you're going to see the most amount of valuable stuff for agents and teams. So at Rossman Team on Instagram or Facebook.
Grateful for your partnership. I'm excited for our collaboration. Excited to continue to grow with you. And I think voices like yours are very important. I think so many people try to emulate their heroes. Like I love what Brad's doing, but it's so like, video. He was just nominated by Inman. Like you could argue that he's like the LeBron James of content creation, which sounds really cool, but it's really unattainable. I love what you're talking about is start with your phone. Don't stop making calls. Like just start and realize that video is not going to replace being a real estate practitioner that calls clients and sends properties emails, but it could be a massive, replacing 85 octane fuel with like premium high octane fuel and get you further faster. And I think that that's what I love so much about what you're talking about is not become the LeBron James, but like be better than you were yesterday. And those 100 videos may take someone a year, but man, in July 2023, someone's going to sit back and go, I'm so grateful I listened to Jordan, got my 100 videos done. I've learned so much, done a couple of deals. Now it's time to really take it to the next level. So I love what you have to say.
You got it.
Thanks, buddy. Thanks for hopping on.
Thank you. I appreciate you. Take care.
Thanks.